Camila woke up with a knot in her stomach, the weight of anxiety pressing against her chest. She feared the future, worried about making the wrong decisions, and felt paralyzed by the uncertainties ahead. It was a familiar cycle of doubt and panic that had haunted her for months. But today, something was different. She opened her ACIM book to Lesson 48, where it said, "There is nothing to fear." For the first time, she felt a shift. The words resonated deeply. Fear wasn't real. It was just a thought, and thoughts could be changed. As she took a deep breath, the tension in her body melted away. The fear faded, replaced by a quiet strength and peace she had never known before. She realized that there was nothing to fear after all.
Camila sat by the window, staring out at the rain, her heart feeling heavier with each passing moment. She'd been battling anxiety, overwhelmed by the noise of her own thoughts. Every decision felt impossible, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she was lost. Then, she remembered the lesson, "God's voice speaks to me all through the day." In that moment, she paused. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and let go of the stress. Slowly, she started to hear it, the calm, loving guidance within her. It was as if the universe had spoken directly to her soul. Her anxiety melted away. She was reminded that peace, clarity, and love were always there, waiting for her to listen. Camila smiled, feeling lighter, knowing that no matter what came next, she would always be guided by God's voice.
Sharon sat alone in her room, feeling a deep sadness settle in her heart. The weight of the world, her worries, and fears seemed too heavy to bear. She wondered if she would ever find peace. What if she wasn't good enough? What if everything she was struggling with never changed? In those moments of doubt, she felt lost, as if love was something distant, impossible to grasp. But then, Sharon remembered something important. "I am sustained by the love of God." She closed her eyes and breathed deeply, letting that thought sink into her heart. She realized that love was never far away, it was always there, guiding her. With every breath, Sharon could feel a shift inside. The love of God surrounded her, like a gentle embrace that reminded her, "You are enough." As she embraced this truth, the weight lifted. Ruby sat in quiet reflection, thinking back on the first 5 lessons of A Course in Miracles. "Nothing I see means anything," she repeated, realizing how often she attached meaning to things that were merely perceptions. She smiled softly, beginning to understand. The second lesson echoed in her mind, "I have given everything I see all the meaning it has for me." She had been creating her own reality based on judgments and beliefs. "I do not understand anything I see," she whispered to herself, feeling lighter. With the fourth lesson, "These thoughts do not mean anything," Ruby began to release the weight of old beliefs. Finally, she understood lesson 5, "I am never upset for the reason I think." It was a powerful realization, her peace was in her hands. Ruby closed her eyes, embracing the freedom that these lessons had given her, ready to see the world with new eyes. In this heartwarming animated story, Ruby learns the transformative lesson of Lesson 52 from A Course in Miracles, "I am as God created me." Struggling with self-doubt, Ruby believes her past mistakes define her. But as she reflects on lessons 6 to 10, she realizes her thoughts about herself are not reality. Lesson 6 reminds us that we are upset because we see illusions. Ruby understands that her true self is untouched by past mistakes. Lesson 7 teaches that the past has no power over us. Ruby begins to see the present moment with new eyes. Lesson 8 reveals that our minds are often preoccupied with old thoughts that limit us. Ruby learns to let go of them, making room for love. By embracing Lesson 9 and Lesson 10, Ruby discovers that she is not her thoughts. She is whole and perfect, as God created her.
Ruby the rabbit felt a deep sadness as she sat on a rock under a tree. She had tried, but nothing seemed to work. "Why do I always feel upset?" she wondered. Her heart ached, and the world seemed so far away. As Ruby closed her eyes, she remembered the lessons she had learned before. Lesson 11, "My thoughts are images I have made," and Lesson 12, I am upset because I see something that is not there. She understood now that her emotions were not about the world outside, but about the thoughts she had been holding on to. Ruby recalled Lesson 13, a meaningless world engenders fear, and Lesson 14, God did not create a meaningless world. She felt a shift within her. She wasn't upset because of the world, her thoughts had created the illusion. She remembered Lesson 15, my thoughts are images I have made. With this, Ruby realized the truth in Lesson 53, I am never upset for the reason I think. She was free to choose peace. Ruby smiled as the sun broke through the clouds. Her heart lightened, knowing she had the power to change her thoughts. Ruby stared out the window, her heart longed for peace, she felt trapped in the chaos of her thoughts. I just want to be happy, Ruby whispered, remembering the words of A Course in Miracles. Lesson 16 taught her, I am upset because I see something that is not there. The fear she felt was an illusion, not reality. She smiled softly as Lesson 17 echoed in her mind, I am not the victim of the world I see. Her thoughts created her reality. Lesson 18 reminded her, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. The world was simply a reflection of her inner state. Ruby remembered Lesson 19, I am not afraid of love, and allowed herself to open her heart, and with Lesson 20, I am determined to see. She could choose love over fear, joy over sadness. Ruby knew now that peace was not far away, it was within her reach. She smiled, her heart filled with love and light.
Ruby was feeling lost and hopeless. But then, she remembered something from A Course in Miracles. Lesson 21 came to mind, I am determined to see things differently. She realized she could change her perception of everything. Next, Lesson 22, what I see is a form of vengeance. She understood that her negative thoughts were shaping her experience, and by changing her thoughts, she could change the world she saw. Lesson 23 followed, I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. Ruby recognized that her suffering was rooted in judgment and attack, and by letting go of these thoughts, she could find peace. Then, Lesson 24, I do not perceive my own best interests. She realized she didn't always know what was best for her and could trust a higher wisdom to guide her. Finally, Lesson 25, I do not know what anything is for. She didn't need to understand everything, only trust that it all had a purpose. She smiled, realizing that love and light had always been within her. She was never alone.